In 1991, one of the most powerful empires in human history simply vanished. Not invaded, not conquered, not destroyed by nuclear war. It collapsed from within. The Soviet Union once controlled 1/6 of the Earth's landmass. It stretched across 11 time zones, commanded millions of soldiers, possessed the largest nuclear arsenal on the planet, and rivaled the United States in nearly every arena of global power. And yet, in just 2 years, it dissolved. How does a superpower disappear without a world war? To answer that question, we must look deeper than politics. We must examine geography, structure, identity, and the immense cost of sustaining an empire that was simply too vast to hold together. The Soviet Union was officially formed in 1922, rising from the ashes of the Russian Empire after revolution and civil war. The Bolsheviks promised something radical, a socialist state that would unite workers across nations under one ideological banner. It began with Russia, but it did not stop there. Ukraine, Belarus, the Baltic states, Central Asia, the Caucasus, 15 republics in total. From Eastern Europe to the Pacific Ocean, from Arctic ice fields to Central Asian deserts, the Soviet Union became the largest country on Earth. Its size projected dominance, its borders intimidated rivals, its military defined the Cold War. For decades, it stood as one of two global superpowers. But size is not just strength. Size is responsibility. Size is infrastructure. Size is cost. And over time, that cost became unbearable. At the heart of the Soviet system was central planning. Unlike capitalist economies driven by private ownership and competition, the Soviet model placed control in the hands of the state. Production targets were set not by markets, but by government committees in Moscow. Factories did not compete. Prices were not determined by supply and demand. Innovation was not rewarded by profit. Instead, planners decided how many shoes would be produced, how much steel would be manufactured, and how much grain would be harvested. On paper, the system appeared efficient, coordinated, unified, purposeful. In practice, it created stagnation. Factories focused on meeting quotas rather than improving quality. If a factory was ordered to produce 10,000 pairs of shoes, it would produce them, even if they were poorly made or unusable. Shortages became routine. Long lines for bread became part of daily life. Consumer goods were scarce. The Soviet system could produce tanks and missiles with remarkable efficiency, but it struggled to produce refrigerators. Over time, this imbalance weakened the foundation of the economy. Now, consider geography. The Soviet Union spanned 11 time zones. Transporting goods from western Ukraine to eastern Siberia meant crossing thousands of miles of railways through frozen tundra. Maintaining Arctic ports required constant battles against ice. Supplying distant republics demanded vast logistical coordination. Energy grids stretched across continents, pipelines crossed mountain ranges, railways carved through permafrost. The empire's enormous size, once a symbol of greatness, became a permanent financial burden. It was expensive to govern, expensive to supply, expensive to defend. And during the Cold War, defense spending never slowed. From the late 1940s onward, the Soviet Union was locked in a relentless rivalry with the United States. Nuclear arsenals expanded rapidly. Intercontinental ballistic missiles multiplied. Submarines patrolled the oceans in silence. Each side feared falling behind. This arms race consumed vast resources. Then, in 1979, Soviet forces entered Afghanistan. What was expected to be a quick intervention turned into a brutal 10-year-long conflict. Soviet troops faced guerrilla fighters in unforgiving mountainous terrain, backed by foreign powers.
The war drained finances, it drained morale, it drained international credibility. At the same time, global oil prices, a crucial source of Soviet revenue, began to fall in the 1980s. With declining income and sustained military spending, the economic pressure intensified. But the most dangerous strain was not economic, it was internal. Despite its name, the Soviet Union was not a single culture. It was a collection of nations: Ukrainians, Estonians, Georgians, Kazakhs, Lithuanians, Armenians. Each had its own language, history, and national identity. For decades, centralized authority from Moscow held these republics together, but alignment is not the same as unity. As economic hardship grew, nationalist movements strengthened. People began asking questions that were once unthinkable. Why should Moscow decide our future? Why are our resources flowing to the center while our cities struggle? The cracks were forming. In 1985, a new leader emerged, Mikhail Gorbachev. He recognized that the system was stagnating and unsustainable. To save it, he introduced two major reforms: Perestroika, economic restructuring, and Glasnost, political openness. The intention was preservation, but reforming a rigid system can destabilize it. Glasnost allowed citizens to criticize the government more openly. For the first time, state failures were discussed publicly. Then came the Chernobyl disaster in 1986. The nuclear accident exposed secrecy, incompetence, and systemic weakness. Public trust rapidly eroded. Meanwhile, Perestroika attempted limited market reforms, but without fully abandoning central planning. The result was confusion. The old system weakened, the new system failed to fully form. Instead of stabilizing the Soviet Union, reform accelerated its fragmentation. By the late 1980s, Eastern Europe was breaking away from Soviet influence: Lithuania, Hungary, Czechoslovakia. In 1989, the Berlin Wall fell. This moment was more than symbolic. It signaled that Soviet authority in Eastern Europe was collapsing. Inside the Soviet Union itself, independence movements gained momentum. Lithuania declared independence in 1990, Latvia followed, Estonia followed. Moscow attempted pressure, but the resolve to maintain control was fading. Then came the failed coup of August 1991. Hardline officials tried to seize power and reverse reforms. Tanks rolled into Moscow, but within days, the coup collapsed. Instead of restoring strength, it revealed weakness. After that, events moved quickly. On December 25, 1991, Mikhail Gorbachev resigned as president. That same night, the red Soviet flag above the Kremlin was lowered for the last time. In its place, the Russian tricolor was raised. The Soviet Union ceased to exist. 15 independent nations emerged. The world map changed almost overnight. But collapse is rarely clean. The 1990s were devastating for millions across the former Soviet republics. State industries were privatized rapidly, corruption flourished, inflation spiraled out of control, savings vanished, life expectancy declined, poverty surged. Millions who had once lived in a superpower now faced economic uncertainty. 25 million ethnic Russians suddenly found themselves outside Russia's borders, in Ukraine, the Baltic states, and Central Asia. New borders created new tensions. Meanwhile, NATO expanded eastward, incorporating former Soviet-aligned states into a Western military alliance. From Moscow's perspective, this felt less like cooperation, more like encroachment. The Cold War had ended, but mistrust remained. Many modern geopolitical tensions trace back to 1991. The question of Ukraine's alignment, the status of Crimea, energy pipelines across Eastern Europe, security concerns in the Baltic region. The collapse of the Soviet Union did not eliminate rivalry, it reshaped it. For many Russians, the dissolution was not liberation, it was humiliation. That perception continues to influence global politics today. Conclusion: the quiet